Therapists and psychiatrists of Reddit, what is the best, most uplifting recovery journey you've ever witnessed? Therapist here. Withholding information for privacy reasons. Kids for me are really rewarding and inspiring to work with. One kid growled and yelled at me. Wouldn't he talk to me at all? Fought and stole from kids. He had severe trauma of all kinds at a really young age and wasn't he given a chance. Refused to attend classes at school. By the end he did a complete 180. Not just because of counseling but also great support from the school. But his transformation was incredible. He went from yelling and growling out of anger to verbalizing hurt it stemmed from. It was truly amazing. One that stands out most was a woman who had used heroin, alcohol, and crack for all of her adult life. She was homeless, had never really held a job, and had multiple legal problems due to her drug use. At 50-something, she had decided to get clean and did so for several months, until her child was murdered. She had a brief relapse, but got clean again. In 4 years, she sorted out her legal issues, reconnected with her family, left their abusive partner, obtained her own housing, volunteered regularly, and completed a 4-year degree. I can't imagine having gone from a complete street lifestyle, and during the worst tragedy one can imagine, newly sober, and then entering and excelling in academia. Honestly, it is not the huge stories that stand out. It is little things that people accomplish during their recovery. When I was using heroin, I knew a woman who had her master's degree framed and hanging on the wall. She had a knack for interior design, and seemed to really care about other people, as long as she was well had dope. This was a smart, resourceful woman that had a bright future. She also shot up heroin and meth daily, smoked a pack a day, and kept a pint of bottom-shelf whiskey in her purse that she would take pulls of throughout the day. She had an 8-year-old son that her mother took care of, and she only saw once a month or so. Just before I got clean, she got pregnant again. The pregnancy was into the 2nd month when she knew for sure, and she had been using all these substances heavily during the time. She told me that she was pregnant when she began to show. Maybe 3 months in or so when she told me. We had just picked up from our dealer. We were in her bathroom, and she was sitting on the toilet trying to find a vein to inject a mixture of heroin and meth. But she was having trouble as most of her good veins had long ago given up the ghost. As an active user at the time, I am ashamed to say that I really did not care. I needed to get well myself. As my nose dripped and the specter of dope sickness loomed in the back of my mind, I assumed that she had aborted or, more likely, miscarried. But she said she wanted another child. She was keeping it, and that she had given up drinking and smoking. Well, she still had a cigarette here and there, but she was trying. Yeah, right. I thought to myself, you literally just pushed the plunger down on 60 cc's of dope and ice. But at least you stopped drinking 2 months in. I got clean soon after, not because of this situation, but for my own reasons. I got a call from her a few months later, in which she said she was clean and doing well. I hope that prison is still true. That was over a year ago, and I believe she carried the baby to term. I drive by her house sometimes. I have seen her dog outside and caught a glimpse of her, once or twice. I think that I saw some baby stuff, but I'm not sure. If the baby was born, I hope the drugs did not affect it too badly. I hope that she is still clean, and I hope she is able to finally make use of that master's in social work, so that it is not just a piece of paper hanging on a wall anymore. As many other therapists mentioned, we can't share many things because of confidentiality, but here is something I can share. Anytime a previously depressed, disinterested, apathetic, or suicidal client tells me about a new hobby or passion, I get so excited. Doesn't matter what it is. Dungeons and Dragons, pet rats, growing herbs, 3D printing, anime, video games, geocaching. I don't know about any of those things, but if my client is excited about it, I am over the moon and I want to hear all about it. Seeing them find a passion for something, no matter if it is something that I personally find weird or boring, that is a part of my job that I love, and I will sit and listen and cheer them on, and I will leave that session feeling so happy. Had a client with chronic illnesses. She was often sick or in pain and felt terribly guilty for not being able to care for her family when she had really bad days. On the days when she felt good, she would push herself to her absolute limit by cooking and cleaning and fitting in as much family time as she could before she felt sick again. Inevitably, she would wake up the next day feeling way worse than she did previously because she overextended herself. This became a rather predictable cycle. It took months to convince her to slow down a little on the days she felt good and to take care of herself on those days too, so that her good days might last a little longer, and to stop feeling guilty for her bad days. She was able to find a balance and improve her overall quality of life. She did amazingly, and I still think about her from time to time. It has been 10 years. I hope she is still killing it. Coming into this one late, but I work with children in social services as a trauma therapist teacher. So the poop I see is pretty horrific sometimes. I had a kid a few years ago who will stick with me forever. PTSD at 4 years old from seeing some really awful things. Things that damn adults into lifetimes of isolation and depression. And my job was to try to get this kid equipped to handle a kindergarten classroom. A little info here: when young children experience trauma, one way they may communicate this is through mimicking their experiences. Sometimes in social interactions, sometimes in play. This child had this symptom. Essentially, I had a 4-year-old acting like a psychopathic, abusive, alcoholic grown man. Every day we documented the bruises and marks he left on me. For 2 years he bit, spat at, shat on, hit, kicked, and slapped me. Some days I felt like I was getting to him. Most days I went into the staff bathroom and either punched the paper towel dispenser, or went home and drank myself to sleep. He spat a used Band-Aid into my mouth, threw his own poop into my eyes, bit through my wrist, which, yeah, was all every bit as horrific as it sounds. But I kept trying. Everyone did. We loved him. We never let him know how stressed he made us or how much we had to brace and prepare ourselves for sessions with him. We never told him that we dreaded some days, knowing we were just too tired but had to do it all anyways. 5 days a week, intensive outpatient care, and it felt like we were getting nowhere, and that was it. He came to me that way, and he left me that way. The day he graduated the program I cried, got heavily drunk, and prayed his kindergarten teacher would show him half the love and grace I'd been able to. Only a few months into kindergarten the teacher reached out to me. We had an Roy from his IEP process. But I never thought I'd hear anything after school started. I usually don't. And she said he was doing amazing. The medication we hadn't seen work had started to balance things. The skills we taught over and over and over and over, he was using them. He had friends, where everyone who'd been scared of him before. He played with other children. He colored. He walked into school happy to be there and left happy to go home. She was describing to me a child I had never met, but had helped create. Working with littles is discouraging, because I often don't see the fruits of my labor. If I am lucky, I can help identify ongoing traumas and put a stop to them so that the next specialist can treat it. If I am even luckier, the child may be able to function in kindergarten better because of something I said or did correctly. But I usually don't know. If I am unlucky, the grooming is so deep and so hurtful that the children give me very little to go off of, and I send them to school with little more than a lying parent and a wrist-thick binder of documentation that led nowhere. And my buddies on speed dial with CPS do their best. They do. But there is only so much we can do when a family really wants to hide something. I have to remind myself often that my job is really just to plant a seed of healing, and that I am doing it for the functioning adult I will get to be someday, whom I will never meet, so that their middle school teachers never realize what a broken child they had to be at this time, and their future spouses and children benefit from the love they've earned and skills they've implemented into them. But duck if it isn't hard some days. Most days. All of them. Duck if it isn't so goddamn hard. I am glad I do this. That all of us do. Social services is savage and unforgiving. We need more good people in it. I hope the kids I am helping benefit and turn into the recovery journeys everyone here is describing, but unfortunately, I rarely ever really know. You are possibly one of the bravest of people. Almost killed myself in college taking 23 credits. working 2 jobs, way over exercising, but mostly profoundly depressed. I had been struggling with eating disorders. Self-harm in the form of those eating disorders, forcing myself to throw up because I did something bad, even if I had not eaten all day. I really spiraled after the sexual harassment I experienced came to light, and the professor who did it was fired. I felt so guilty. I had been assaulted before, so it felt like it was not a big deal. But other people who knew about it reported it, and he was fired since my testimony proved the pattern. I was lying in bed, trying not to kill myself. I told my friend I just wanted to die, and half joked about the nickel in my desk drawer. He came to my room and got me, took me to the clinic, and checked me in. I was sent to a hospital and put into a psychiatric clinic. I remember I desperately did not want to tell my parents. I was so ashamed. I called my dad, and he laughed. Not at me, but he said, "We are on the same schedule." He was checked into a psychiatric ward almost to the day his same year in college. My mom just cried. I started on antidepressants and started going to therapy to deal with my trauma from my childhood sexual abuse that I really only half remembered, my years-long eating disorder, the bullying I experienced in middle and high school, and just my profound emptiness. I cannot even express to you what it felt like to wake up one morning and not want to die, to just be thankful to be alive, to want to do things. It was like hot chocolate, or jumping into a pool, or the first bite of key lime pie. I was walking down to the cafeteria to make a peanut butter jelly, where literally 2 weeks earlier I had cried for 2 hours because they were out of peanut butter when I had went. I actually could not remember the last time I did not want to die, at least in some way. My grades never suffered, but they got better, and I was better able to handle the stress. I stood up for myself in my next relationships. I became more confident, and I eventually met my husband. We have been married for almost 6 months now. I am off antidepressants, have been for a while, and while I still face setbacks and sadness, I can confidently say that I do not want to die, which is something high school and college me never would have imagined. I am not a psychiatrist or a therapist, and I have not been in a recovery journey. However, there was this girl on my class at high school who must have had some kind of trauma, because she almost never spoke, and when she did, it was almost like a whisper. She must have felt really anxious around people because she would always secretly escape during school day trips to go home. My friend and I took her with us. We were a bit of outcasts already, but she could not communicate well, even when we asked her questions about her hobbies, etc. Talking made her really uncomfortable, so we just let her hang around, and she did follow us for all high school. Many years later I saw her by chance on the street, and she talked to me with a normal voice tone. We had a whole conversation, and she was fashionable, and had a husband who adores her. Later she got pregnant and gave birth to a baby girl. She is the biggest transformation I have ever seen, and I am so happy for her. I am a therapist, and when I think of all my successful clients I can see how wonderful it would be to hear the success stories. When I think of success stories, I cannot imagine a way to anonymize the information enough to protect privacy and keep it interesting. Like to protect privacy, it would be along the lines of they started a medication that helped them feel well enough to start doing the therapeutic change work. They overhauled their life and changed their interactions with others and are now doing awesome. Speaking as a patient, with my therapist's help I was able to let go of almost all of my anger towards my parents. I remember him asking point blank what it would take to make me happy. I thought about it, and when I told him what I needed, he straight up said that will never ever happen. He did not say what I was asking for was wrong or unfair or even too much. He thought it was a well-reasoned ask, but it will never ducking happen. Having someone express me that upfront and almost confrontational to my beliefs was what I needed. In that one moment I had to let go, or else it would end up killing me. I cannot express how much my life turned around after that session. I remember talking about it with them, and they were genuinely surprised that particular session was so effective. I didn't even know I was mad at my dad until I started therapy. Oh boy. Now all that stuff is behind me, and he is great. Working with literally any client and being able to collaboratively work towards what is important to them. It's hard to pick a favorite since everyone's journey is extremely meaningful in one way or another. So to any MH professionals, keep it vague at best if you indeed choose to share. They may be inspirational to us, but it is also not up to us to share the stories of others from what they consider a safe private space. ILL, give them mine if you want. Of what you are talking about. I was a rough kid. I had great parents. But my anxiety and depression flared in terrible ways until I was court-ordered to see a therapist. My parents shopped for weeks and we went to multiple that specialized in boys, which my mom recognized as bullshit and asked my opinion of them. All of them didn't sit well with me until I found Dr. K, a retired Marine. His white beard and IQ attitude just sat with me. He talked straight and didn't candy coat things. He wasn't careful with how he phrased things and didn't feel like he was always walking on eggshells, and that sat well with me. So to give you a personal example of what you are talking about, he helped identify what was important to me: family, outdoors, and a more solitary demeanor. After he helped and moved me through those, he helped give me a firm foundation on how to get through triggers and frustrations, and targeted helping me get through high school, then college. I wish I could talk to him now, just to thank him. He meant a lot and his help got me through some really rough times. Not a therapist but a patient. I saw this psychologist for a year and was suicidal. She taught me how to talk myself out of suicidal thoughts and literally saved my life. I stopped seeing her because I did not need to anymore. Years later, I was raped and my GP told me that I should see a psychologist even if I did not think I needed to. I went back to her. We had a good chat and I thanked her for saving my life back in the day. Because she did. She said, "No. You did all the work," and held a straight face, but I'm pretty sure she teared up. She was a great psychologist.